Hello and welcome back to Here's the News, the live movie show on Here's the Thing. We're here talking about some breaking Star Wars news or maybe some non-Star Wars news, some not happening Star Wars news. We're also going to give you some early reviews for Shelby Oaks, as well as Is This Thing On? Highly anticipated Oscar potential movie right there. We'll see what Michael thinks about that. Michael will be joining the show later for that. But for that and all kinds of movie news for the last week, you're here for Here's the News. I'm here, of course, not by myself. I'm with my co-host Ari. How are you feeling this week about the movie news? And are you excited to talk about some of these stories?
Yeah, this was not the biggest week for news, but we did unfortunately have some people pass away, so we'll definitely be talking about that, especially Drew Struzan. And to me, that's Star Wars story, and then there's another story I won't mention, but we'll get to it. But there is a big one involving a very big actor. So yeah, I'm looking forward, especially talking about that Star Wars story.
Yeah, let's kick it off with that Star Wars story. Kylo Ren Spinoff was potentially happening, but I guess it's not happening. Adam Driver revealed in an interview recently that him and Steven Soderbergh have been working on a Kylo Ren spinoff movie for over 2 years, and that Lucasfilm was very encouraging of the project. They were really positive on their ideas, but then when they brought it to the head of Disney, it was basically immediately axed. They said, "Oh, we don't really see how that could work," and then the project just immediately died. And it sounds like Adam Driver is a little bit bummed about that. He seemed passionate about potentially coming back to the character. But what do you think, Ari, about this story of both Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh coming together to pitch a Kylo Ren spinoff and then it ultimately being nixed by Disney? How are you feeling?
Well, so I was just looking at it, and it says it was going to take place after Rise of Skywalker. So I guess that means at the point they pitched this, he was not meant to die, because you can't have a movie take place after it. So this was when they're going to have him live. To think that I just can't wrap my head around this Disney Star Wars. It's not a new thing. It's not like they were perfect 8 years ago, and this just shows why that leadership is just absolutely horrible. I mean, you're telling me that Steven Soderbergh, one of the best directors working, I mean, look at all the great beloved films he makes, and you're going to say no? Like, who cares if the story doesn't make sense 100%? Like, you should say yes to that.
Yeah, you
And
can figure the story out as you go, right? Like figuring out why Kylo Ren is alive probably is not that hard of a problem to solve, right? You can figure out some kind of plot reason to bring a character back to life in Star Wars, right? So that barrier of, oh, he's dead, so he can't come back, that just feels more like an excuse to me.
yeah, and I mean, I would personally imagine that when they pitched this, at that point, he was meant to live. Um, but this is just absolutely, this is so upsetting. I mean, just to look at Rise Skywalker and how disappointing that was, and how it ended his story so horribly. The fact that we could have got this follow up that maybe could have not necessarily redeemed the movie, but left a better taste in people's mouth. We got this awesome movie. You could undo. They could have just straight up undid its death, right? Like, who's gonna care if they undo Kylo Ren's death to have a Steven Soderbergh? Just the fact that a filmmaker like that wanted to do a Star Wars movie and they said no thanks just shows why this leadership was horrible.
Yeah, it's disappointing because you had not only a great director, but one of the greatest talents you've had at Disney, right? Adam Driver is a huge breaking name, really, really talented. How do you say no to him coming back? And at this point, is he going to want to come back, right? Like the nature of this thing has changed. If they decide to rebuild these sequel characters, is he still going to want to do this? It sounds like he's interested. That was something I took away from the story is, oh, wow, Adam Driver does want to come back and play Kylo Ren. He likes the character. He wants to have something more come from that character's story. So I'm excited by that. But I am bummed it didn't happen. Kylo Ren is my favorite Star Wars character. He's, I think, the best villain in Star Wars. A really, really compelling character. A great performance from Adam Driver. And to see more of that, especially Unchained from the sequel trilogy, maybe a little bit more of a standalone thing where Soderbergh could kind of make his own story and not be so tied to the lore of the Skywalkers and all of this stuff. It could have been great to see. And
The-
Soderbergh's maybe not like an amazing director, but he's very efficient. He knows how to get a project done and get it done on budget, get it done on time. And that's what Disney really needed more than anything, right? Somebody who could make a good movie on time, under budget, and have it make its money back. And right now they're floundering, and they've been floundering for years. And you wonder if investing in a serviceable, good director like Soderbergh would have helped them out, at least help them bridge this gap right now. Like, how do you get people to care about these characters again? And I think that's a problem they're trying to solve. And it makes me scared that they're turning down stuff like this.
I would say in terms of not blockbuster directors, but non-blockbuster mainstream directors who are willing to work with studios, I would say he's one of the best. But I think this would have been very well, and also the title, The Hunt for Kylo Ren, that makes it sound like maybe he did die in Rise of Skywalker, and now somehow there's some mysterious figure out there. Somehow the Force brought him back. Something like that. And yeah, I am looking forward to the potential idea of him coming back, whether it's a Force ghost or if they straight up just bring him back to life. I mean, if this trilogy happens and they bring him back to life, how many people are actually going to be mad about that?
Yeah, I'm really curious what the future is for Kylo Ren and these sequel characters, because it's clear that Adam Driver has interest. It's clear that Lucasfilm from this story has interest. They want to explore these characters more. Disney doesn't. And I think Disney sees the reaction to the sequels. They see just this general cultural reaction, and they say, let's maybe not invest in sequel characters right now. They had this Rey movie they announced. They said, oh, she's here. She's coming out on the stage. She's definitely coming back. That movie's not happening, right? All of these movies tying directly into the sequel characters seem to just not be happening. They're leaning heavily into Starfighter. They're even kind of trying to bypass Mandalorian, right? They're trying to get us in this new direction with these new characters. And Kylo Ren, Rey, they'll probably show up at some point in the story, but it makes me feel like we're not going to be seeing an actual Rey-led movie, an actual Kylo Ren-led movie, because it seems like Disney's maybe afraid to get close to the sequels right now. People haven't really gotten to the point yet where they're calmed down for the sequel trilogy, right? People are still kind of upset. People are still kind of mad. So I think maybe they want to leave it alone for a while.
You also could do another sequel trilogy where they're not the main characters, where they're kind of not necessarily sidelined, but more supporting characters and have new leads. And you could do something like that.
And I have a feeling that's where they're slightly going to go. I feel like Starfighter is going to have some kind of cameo from Rey or some kind of connection to Rey. The plot is that he's trying to get this Force-sensitive kid to something. We haven't really figured out what that something is, but I wonder if that will be Rey or if that will be plot twist, Ben Solo or something like that. That could be.
Yeah, what if Starfighter ends with somehow Ben Solo is here, like he's alive?
Acres of Movies says, bring back Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, but nobody's ever really gone, though.
Do you believe Mark Hamill when he says the 100% I'm done, I won't be back ever?
I kind of believe him. I think he'll come back for like cameos of other characters and stuff like that. Like he'll voice an alien or that kind of thing. But Luke Skywalker's story has ended like so many times. We don't have to bring him back again. We don't have to do yet another Luke Skywalker train somebody again. Maybe he'll do a voice role or something. But I think in terms of live action performances, I believe him. But at the same time, if Disney brings you billions of dollars or whatever and is like, here's hundreds of millions of dollars, please come back for this role. He's only a human being. You're right. He's going to take that money.
And do you believe Kathleen Kennedy will be out like before at this point next year?
When does Starfighter come out? Because I think she'll make it through the release of Starfighter.
Out in 2027, I believe May of 2027.
I'd be curious to see how she plays it because she's clearly towards the end of her career.
Because Starfighter would be a better way to go out than Mandalorian and Grogu, unless it's actually like legitimately incredible.
Yeah, and I think if Starfighter sets up this new era for what Star Wars is going to look like, it's a good way for her to go out and say, look, here's the path, right? Like, here's me laying the groundwork for what you guys can run with. Here's a beginning to something, and then see what happens there.
May 28th, 2027.
Akers is saying is Starfighter going to get released or be a tax write-off? That's not one you write off. I think they're
What?
pushing that thing like it's going to be the movie, right?
Yeah, that is not happening.
Anything else to talk about here with the Kylo Ren story?
I don't think so. Is there anything else we'd like to talk about that was mentioned in that piece?
Nothing that stood out to me. Was there anything from you? Did you read the whole interview or anything like that?
I did not get a chance to. It does say Soderbergh said in a statement, I really enjoyed making the movie in my head. I'm just sorry the fans won't get to see it.
That's a bummer, and it's interesting they're talking so openly about it, right? You feel like if they would maybe want to play their cards close to their chest, if this was something that was actually had any possibility of happening. So the fact that they're saying this openly, to me, is super, super dead.
This might sound kind of crazy, but if Darren Aronofsky gets this like resurgence and he does this thriller for A24 with The Rock and he sort of has a cultural resurgence, what if we saw, it seems like he wants to do different kind of films, not necessarily like he's not opposed to doing blockbusters. What if we saw him take over this project in like 4 or 5 years?
I would love to see this actually come to fruition. I have a quote here from Driver if you want to hear it. He says, I was always interested in doing another Star Wars. I had been talking about doing one ever since 2021. Kathleen has reached out. I always said, with a great director and a great story, I'd be there in 1 second. I love that character and I love playing him. But the idea of Kathleen Kennedy has reached out. That's very interesting.
Him saying he has not just interest, but like a lot of interest, that is one of the most shocking things I've heard in like the last couple of years, because I really thought it seemed like Adam Driver wants to go in a different direction with his career. He wants to try to break out. And the fact that he maybe hasn't, he's succeeded in that he's gotten to work with all these great directors and he's been involved with some good films, but none of them have taken off none of them have become big cultural sensations or been remembered even that well. So I'm not surprised. I mean, he said he's been interested since 2021, but this is very interesting to me and gives me hope, because I was like, I'd love to see Adam Driver come back for like the sequels or the Rey movie, but now this gives me hope that like we could see him back in that. Like, if you're actually gonna do that trilogy with Simon Kinberg and Adam Driver's if those movies do happen, there's no way you don't bring him in.
Yeah, if you're doing a Rey movie of any kind, a sequel movie of any kind, and he's saying, I always wanted to do this, he's coming back. Whether it's for a small role, a cameo, or anything bigger. That's my biggest comfort. Like you said, too, he's interested. He's really interested. So, and we haven't seen a lot of the other cast talk about that. We've seen that from him. We've seen that from Daisy. But the other cast seem like they aren't that interested. Jen Boyega will probably come back with enough love. Oscar Isaac doesn't seem like he's that into it, but you never really know. Once they start getting everybody together, maybe Oscar Isaac is like, you know what, the gang's met together. I'll come over for a couple of days and see what's going on in the set and have a little small role. But it makes me feel great that maybe we will see Daisy and Adam together on the screen again. My heart, I don't know if I could take that, but I will believe.
I mean, like Boyega, it sounds like he'd do it, but he's not necessarily like super interested, like maybe Adam Driver is. But you could also do a story with the Force, and I'd like them to get more into the Force in this sort of unknown, mystical way, where maybe they do a story where like one night Rey wakes up and she feels this thing in the Force, and it keeps happening every night or whatever, and then she sees it's Kylo, and it's this slow progression throughout the movie of the Force is trying to bring him back to life. And maybe you do something where the Force is like this person that was not meant to die. They were not meant to be erased from reality. And so it's a slow progression, the story of bringing Kylo back to life until the first movie in the trilogy ends with Ben Solo returned. Ben Solo back to life, and now he's more powerful than ever. Make him what better way to make fans happy than have him be the real chosen one, right? What if like Rey's the chosen one, and the movie with Ben Solo is the chosen one. It's
I don't know
all
about
led
that.
to this.
I'd love to see them do something. I don't know about that pitch, but we'll see what they do, and I hope they do something.
Okay.
You ready to move on? We have a special guest waiting in the wings.
Yeah,
Michael.
yeah. Let's move on.
He has not been on the show in a while. It might be his first appearance actually on the new show, but
It is.
he recently watched Is This Thing On? The
And the
highly
Middleburg-
anticipated Bradley Cooper, his third feature. So we're going to bring on Michael right now. Michael, welcome to the news show. How are you feeling right now?
Is this thing on?
I believe it's
I
on.
believe it is.
Okay. Oh, good. All right, then I'm here. Yeah, I'm really excited. I have gone to Middleburg Film Festival for the first year. It's another film festival in Virginia that they hold up here, and I saw that Is This Thing On was playing there because it wasn't playing at the Virginia Film Festival, which I'll be going to very soon as well. And so I thought, oh, I'll have to see this. I'll have to tell y'all the story of my actual trip for another day. That might be the wildest road trip I've ever had to take in my life. But that's another
It's a movie
story
all on its own.
for another day. It was insane. But the movie itself, I went in the theater. First off, where it was at, it's very interesting. Middleburg has like they don't show them in proper theaters. Like I watched this film in a school, technically. And it was like a bigger screen. Oh, hit my mic. It was a bigger screen, but it was like in a school with like the stand-in chairs that they brought into the room. It was kind of odd. I was like,
So it wasn't like a college movie theater?
No, it wasn't like it was like it had a stage, so it's like I guess they hold like school plays there, like high school plays, and then they had like a screen behind it, but it was like normal stand-in chairs that you just like sit in that were like wooden, uncomfortable chairs.
Oh.
I was like, holy!
That's an odd viewing experience.
That's weird.
Yeah, so not a super great viewing experience.
But how did the movie turn out? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah, the movie though was actually really good. I honestly, this was way better than I thought it was going to be. I saw the trailer. I thought this was just going to be, this is like just going to be BoJack Horseman light, and in a way, it definitely has those elements. And it's not just because of Will Arnett being in this movie, but I thought this was actually really profound. Look, without giving anything away, because I know this doesn't come out until December. If y'all have seen the trailer, y'all know what it's about a man who's, dealing with a separation from his wife and everything, and he's joining the stand-up comedy scene. And I thought that this was a really interesting exploration about relationships, but also just about getting into something like that, like a hobby or something that can just help you to be able to move on from whatever it is in your life that's really holding you back. And all the actual stand-up comedy scenes were excellent in this film. And Will Arnett himself, look out for Best Actor, because Will Arnett, I never ever thought I would ever tear up watching a Will Arnett performance, but he made me laugh. He made me tear up. He gave it all, and he was really excellent in this. And the script is so well done. I could see it getting into a screenplay. It feels very naturalistic with its dialogue, which is really nice, and I really appreciate that. And it's a really funny movie too, so like a lot of the jokes land. So that was good too. And Bradley Cooper, y'all seen him in the trailer. He's not in the movie long, but when he does show up, he's in it. He does a really good job whenever he's in it too. But it's really just Laura Dern and Will Arnett mostly, and that's like their stories through this movie. I also gotta say, if y'all are fans of the song "Under Pressure" from Queen, all I will say is this has the best use of "Under Pressure" since After Sun. It's really fun. So. Yeah. To me, while this is a much more intimate movie, because A Star Is Born was a lot more grand scale was much more bigger and everything. While in Maestro, well, that's just mid. But A Star Is Born was, a very good movie, but feels grand in scope. This one is a lot more taken back. He shoots it in a certain aspect ratio that's just like different too, and like very he wants us just to feel very like just like you are looking into the window of somebody, and just watching their life as it happens. Like he wants it to feel that way, and I really appreciated that about the film. And to me, because of how it personally affected me, I think this might be my favorite of the Bradley Cooper directorial efforts. I thought this was really a phenomenal piece of work.
I'm really glad you liked it. How are you feeling about the Oscars chances? He talked about Will Arnett. Do you think it has a shot to be in picture or in screenplay, or do you think even Bradley Cooper for like supporting actor? Is there any shot for anything like that?
So I will say that I was looking at something today talking about not only is Bradley Cooper good at getting into nominations, whether it's producing, whether it's directing, whether it's acting, but he is also really good at getting actors in movies that he's directed so far being nominated in his movies. Because if you look at Maestro, he got 2 into Best Actor for himself and for Carey Mulligan. And if you look at A Star Is Born, he had 3 from A Star Is Born get nominated in that movie. So he is really good at he is very much an actor's director. I almost feel like without the problematic elements, he is trying to lean towards and I only make this comparison because you can very much feel the style of like Silver Linings Playbook in Is This Thing On? And I feel like he's almost trying to go the trajectory route of a David O. Russell, just without the problematic elements, but how like David O. Russell was that like actor's director, the one that like is gonna get a bunch of actors in there and they're gonna deliver some of the best performances that they've delivered, get like Oscars for them and stuff. I almost feel like Bradley Cooper is trying to lean that route with his career, and so I could definitely see some acting nominations, especially for Will Arnett. But the thing is I only think Will Arnett and Laura Dern. I think Laura Dern, because that category is super weak, I'm honestly like looking out for her. I think she could pop up in there. But
yeah, I've thought about Laura Dern all year, especially in the wake of David Lynch's passing. She's the most prominent David Lynch actress who's working right now. So I think that might be a fun way to share some love to David Lynch as well, to even give her a win potentially, get her on stage, get her to give a speech, talk about David Lynch in the speech. That could be some narrative around that, right? I don't know.
It could. And also it really helps too that she said working with Bradley Cooper on this movie felt like working with David Lynch on Inland Empire. Like she said that in an interview, just like the experience of what it was like working with that director and everything. And so that really says a lot in terms of, because she was so close to David Lynch. So that really says a lot in terms of just the kind of director Bradley Cooper is. So I could definitely see that. I think, again, Bradley Cooper, he's in it way too short of a time. And I liked that even though he's not in it long, I like, because any director who's in a movie, they could have made themselves like the standout or whatever. But I'm glad that he kind of sidelined himself this time, just to kind of let his other actors work. Because if you watch something like Maestro and you watch something like A Star Is Born, something like that, where he is the headliner, he's like the main character. It's like, oh, I'm going to be the one that you're looking at on screen this whole time. And it's like, no, this time he's going to take a little bit of a step back and let his other friends work their magic. And I thought that was really nice.
What were some negatives you had about the film? Because you talked a lot about how much you loved it. What holds it back from, being a 10 out of 10? What are some misses here?
Yeah, so some of the misses that I have is there is some elements like where I got the idea of what they were doing and certain jokes, not when it's like the stand-up comedy stuff. All the stand-up comedy stuff works super well. I was like dying laughing when you're watching stuff like that. But when it came to certain other jokes, some of them just really didn't land. I'm not going to spoil the scene, but there's a scene where all I'll say is that like someone's preparing breakfast and something is kind of happening and everything, and while that is happening, it literally the scene that's going on goes on for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and it's just sort of like, okay, this is a 2 hour and 4 minute movie. You could have easily trimmed this out or to just trim this down really fast. This did not need to be like a 3 minute sequence in this movie, and so there are stuff like that kind of holds it back. And I will also say I do think it was too long. I think 2 hours and 4 minutes for a movie like this, what like the small scale intimate story about just this guy trying to navigate his life and he's having a midlife crisis. Something like that doesn't need to be 2 hours and 4 minutes. Something like that can easily be an hour and 30 or an hour 45. I could deal with an hour 45, but like 2 hours and 4 minutes, I just thought that's a little bit too long for my taste here. And yeah, it's and there's nothing also that, like I said, the screenplay is really outstanding here, but there's nothing that stands out to me directing wise really about this movie at all. So you can scratch director off the table because there's nothing really that stands out to me. When you look at A Star Is Born, there's definitely some direction there that stands out with the performances and all that. Whenever you see Maestro, even, and I'm not even a big Maestro fan, there's some stuff with the orchestra scenes and all that really stand out in terms of directing. This really doesn't stand out in terms of directing. So
how is the cinematography? Because I thought Maestro was a gorgeous looking film. I mean, not just the orchestra scenes, the entire.
So the cinematography is fine. It's nothing too incredible, too good. It's not like Maestro or Star Is Born level, but the editing is what really kind of knocked my sauce off. This has maybe my favorite transition I've seen this year so far. The year is not over, but so far this might have my favorite transition I've seen of the year. It was really cool.
And in terms of music, how was James Newberry's score? Anything stand out to you there?
So the score, I'm glad you asked, because I was going to mention the score was really interesting. It felt almost a bit Birdman-like with the way the score goes. It's very much drum heavy and even implements some jazz stuff, because the movie is about the New York comedy scene, right? And a lot of the movie is about that. And the music itself almost feels very New York, if that makes sense. Like you're listening to the score and you're like, oh, okay, this feels like something you'd be hearing in like a New York jazz band or something. Like it was really interesting. So I thought like it worked really well and added to some of the scenes of the movie. There's like long shots, like there's that one long shot. It's in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler, but there's that long shot walking down the stairs and you just see the camera like following him from like behind him in the trailer. And it's like you'll see stuff like that as it's playing like jazz music and such. And that's really like essentially what the score is throughout the film. And I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, EDM asks what the cast list cameos, possible SAG ensemble or casting Oscar?
Ooh. I could see a SAG ensemble. I could see that. With casting will be really interesting when we do awards roundtable. It'll be really interesting trying to predict this category because I'm having a hard time on whether casting is they're going to go the route of this is a best ensemble, or if they're going to go the route of this is what we thought these actors were the best suited for these roles. You know, so it's like I'm kind of wondering where they're going to lean, and so I'm not confident to say the casting Oscar because I almost feel like they're going to go more the route of that's going to be close to your best picture lineup, and like your top 5 contenders in picture are going to be like the 5 in casting Oscar or something. I could see something along those lines, but it's going to be tricky trying to predict that. I know we're going to probably get casting wrong this year because it's the first time the categories ever come to the Oscars, so it should be fun.
I'm real curious what to do with that casting category. It was great having you on, Michael. Do you have any last thoughts about is this thing on? Thing you want to plug? You know, we're going to talk about that on Awards Roundtable. So if you guys want to hear us get deep into not just this movie, but all the possible contenders, we're going to do any day now a deep dive breakdown of all the categories and all the possible winners here because we're in the heat of the Oscar season. You mentioned you're at a film festival, right? So is there anything coming up the next couple of days you're excited to see? Anything that you saw that was maybe smaller that you wanted to plug for people?
Yeah, so I watched this movie while I was there called The President's Cake, which I'm always trying to look out for these international films because last year I ended up watching every international film that was nominated. So, and if The President's Cake ended up being like the 5th slot, we don't know, then, you know, it's good to be able to see something like that. And I thought this was really interesting. It's about I think it's 1990s Iraq and during the Iraqi war, and you're seeing these children and this whole like village of people are just celebrating Saddam Hussein, you know, the dictator, and so it's just it basically just follows his dictatorship, but from a child's perspective. And basically, his birthday is coming up, and each person has an assignment that they have, a task that they have. And one of the tasks is you have to make the birthday cake, but no one wants that because that's the most complex. Some of the tasks are, okay, this student is assigned to bring in apples or fruit or whatever. This student is assigned to do this. And they know, like, if you don't do it, there's actual dangerous stuff. Like your life is at stake because of this dictatorship that they're in. So the main character gets the birthday cake, and without spoiling much, she just decides I have to do this and basically goes on this journey almost of self-discovery while also trying to get all the ingredients that she needs. And I thought it was a really beautiful, really profound coming of age tale that I definitely recommend that y'all check out. It's from Sony Pictures Classics. They're really good at getting nominations, so they could sneak in there for Best International Feature. We will see, but I'm very curious about that. It was very, very good. And in terms of what I'm really excited to see, so I'm going to the Virginia Film Festival starting on Wednesday all the way through Sunday. I'll be seeing, of course, the big Oscar players. I'm going to be seeing Hamnet, which is going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. I am really looking forward to The Testament of Anne Lee. I'll be seeing that one there. I'm curious. I'll finally get to know like if that's Searchlight's big contender or not. I'm going to be curious. And then I am also going to be seeing The Secret Agent, which I'm curious about, especially after hearing about Wagner Moura and everything there. I'm also going to be seeing No Other Choice, which, you know, I'm hearing could potentially be that international pick that they try to really go for. I'll see. And then, of course, we talked about today in the group chat that I'm going to get tickets for It Was Just an Accident as well. So I'll get to see, you know, the Jafar Panahi international film, and I know that's been getting a lot. That won the Palme d'Or and is getting a lot of Oscar buzz there. So a lot of the big Oscar players I am going to be seeing at this festival, and I'm even going to be seeing a few of the documentary players as well as internationals and everything. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm going to have all my reviews up as separate stuff on the channel, but also I'm going to have come back here and report to you guys some of my favorites of the fest and all that stuff. So yeah,
it'll be fun to get your reports of what it was like to go to these two festivals and the standouts and all of that stuff. So we'd be happy to have you back either next week or whenever you get the chance in the next week or two. It'll be a fun conversation for sure. Awards season is here. We're going to be, me and Ari are going to be covering part of the Chicago Film Festival as well, which just started this week. So we got the Virginia Film Festival covered. We're also going to be covering the Chicago Film Festival. We're covering the Milwaukee Film Festival. We're trying to cover the Midwest and the South here, see if you can get some of these smaller film festivals people aren't really talking about. Everyone talks about New York and TIFF and that kind of stuff, but there's all kinds of great movies at these festivals, frontline Oscar contenders at these festivals that are out in the middle of the country. So look around you. You might have a festival closer than you think, right? If you're sitting there thinking about these elitists in New York and LA who are watching early stuff, you might just have a festival right in your hometown. You don't even know what's happening. So, as they say, check your local listings, but check your local theaters because they might be showing something you don't even know is being shown.
And also go to these film festivals, guys, for not only the case of you get to see films early. Like I'm going to get to see Nirvana, the band, the show, which I'm really excited about, the last day of the festival. And that's not even coming out till next year. So like stuff like that can happen. And and I think that's really cool. But on top of that, also go to these festivals, guys, to honor and celebrate independent cinema because it is that's all it is. It's an encapsulation of independent cinema and a celebration of independent cinema. And you get sold out screenings of people who are into true, honest stories that move us and that actually have something to say. And they are all laughing in unison if it's funny, or they're all crying in unison if it's sad. And then they're all cheering by the end of it. And everyone is there in this, and just like time is stopping for that moment. And you're just all watching the movie together. And it's just beautiful. So I recommend going to a film festival if you guys can. It's the best way to watch a movie, for sure.
Very well said. Support your local film festival. Support your local indie theaters. Michael, it was awesome having you on. Thank you so much for talking about Is This Thing On? And like I said, me and Michael will be reunited very soon on the Awards Roundtable to talk about all the Oscar contenders. Thank you so much, Michael. Have a great night, and we'll see you then.
It's just, see ya. Thank you.
All right. Speaking of early reviews, I've got a quick one here for Shelby Oaks. Now, if you're paying attention to the mystery movies that we're showing at AMC and Regal every Monday, this week's mystery movie was Shelby Oaks, the anticipated release, I would say, from Chris Stuckmann. Everyone's looking at this new age of YouTubers converting from the review space or from the short film space online to making real feature films. You have people like the brothers making Talk to Me. A lot of YouTubers, honestly, have broken into the horror space, especially because that seems to be the grounds where new voices are being heard, right? And Chris Stuckmann, huge horror fan, he made this film Shelby Oaks that follows the sister of a woman who runs a YouTube channel called the YouTube channel is called Paranormal Paranoids. They do paranormal investigations, and over the course of an investigation into the town of Shelby Oaks, the sister goes missing, and her producers of the show are never seen again. And now you follow many years later, her sister has struggled to live a normal life. She can't adjust to the fact that her sister is gone and there's nothing to explain it. So she's become obsessed with figuring out what happened to her sister, going through footage, trying to figure out, some kind of deeper explanation for where his sister might be and try to bring her home. So it's interesting from this film. The format of it is interesting because there's a lot of found footage, but there's also a lot of normal filmmaking. He has an interesting transition of styles and formats across the whole structure of this thing. It goes for a found footage sequence for a while, and then it'll kind of switch to something else. And it's sort of a movie of 3 acts. There's 3 very distinct different parts of Shelby Oaks. And for me, the last part was great, but as a whole, this movie was pretty scary. I was really impressed by how scary this thing is, especially for a movie with such a tiny, tiny budget. I went into this thing really not quite sure how I was going to feel, and I walked out of it kind of impressed. I'm not going to say this is the greatest horror movie of the year. I'm not going to say it's probably even going to be in my top 20 of the year, but it was certainly one of the better movies of this year, and a really impressive debut from Stuckmann, where he holds a lot of this thing together pretty competently, and it made me feel really excited for what he could do with a bigger budget. There's definitely some pacing problems. I think that's his biggest issue. One of his bigger issues here is the pacing issue, especially in the first act. It feels like you're spending a lot of time learning information and watching old footage and kind of that slow documentary build. And if you're one of the few people like me who watch the Paranormal Paranoids YouTube videos that were uploaded many years ago when Chris Stuckmann didn't even have any funding at all, and him and just these very indie actors made YouTube videos over the course of several months that were in character, that are essentially this woman's investigations. If you did watch those, this first act is going to feel kind of redundant, but the movie is going to hit a little bit harder also, right? Because you have a little bit more time with these characters and these people, but it does a decent job establishing you with the main character, or at least her sister as well. But I would say the rest of the Paranormal Paranoids leave a lot to be desired. I don't even know if any of them have lines. Like, some of them are just there in a couple of shots. I wish he would have spent more time with them. But the lead actress is what really stands out here. Her name is Camille Sullivan. I don't think I've seen her in anything else, but she was really good. And her emotional journey has to carry this movie. You have to realize why she's so invested in finding her sister, and feel her emotional journey as she gets more and more desperate to find her and figure out what happened to her. So her performance is really the central part of this. But I had a good time with this one. Stuckmann, I mentioned the pacing issues, but I think probably his number one issue here is that he's just very much wearing his influences on his sleeve. He's very open about the fact that this scene is from Lake Mungo, and this scene is from the Mothman prophecies, and this scene is kind of like a scene from The Ring. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But in a time where horror movies are reaching for a lot of really interesting stuff and really doing crazy twists and stuff like Weapons, you get halfway through Weapons and you realize it's something you weren't expecting. You get halfway through Malignant and you realize it's something you weren't expecting. And Shelby Oaks kind of tries to do twists and turns. It kind of tries to pull the rug out from under you a couple of times here and there. But compared to what else is happening in the horror space, this one just feels a little bit unambitious and a little bit limited, obviously, by its budget, but I think also limited by just the fact that it's so tied to what is influencing Chris Stuckmann, right? And he's talking in interviews about, like, oh, M. Night is open about Hitchcock references and that kind of stuff. So I don't think he's afraid to be like, I love M. Night Shyamalan, and here's M. Night Shyamalan scenes, and here's, scenes that are very much from things that I like. I hope his next work can be more be independent of those things and kind of find his own voice, find a balance of attributing what he likes, but also finding out what is a Chris Stuckmann movie like, right? Not what is a mix of all of Chris Stuckmann's favorite things. What is an actual Chris Stuckmann movie? Me and Michael ranked Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, and this is somewhat in the vein, I would say, of Hard Eight, where Hard Eight was all of Paul Thomas Anderson's favorite things, all in a blender with just a little touch of his individual personality in there. And this could end up being Stuckmann's Hard Eight. It could be the one we look back on and we say, yeah, it's a pretty good start for Stuckmann, but everything else after that was great. And I really hope it is like that. I'm glad this movie is doing well enough to get him attention and maybe get him more work, I definitely recommend this. It's scarier than I thought it was, a lot more well made than I thought it was. It's not going to be your favorite movie of the year, but it was very satisfying, and it takes a lot of unexpected turns. It doesn't necessarily go huge with its twists, but there's enough in there to keep you going ooh and ah, and you definitely get to the end of the movie and you're in a different spot than where you started it. So I think that's a great sign of a good horror movie. It takes you on a journey of emotions across this thing. So I do recommend Shelby Oaks. I don't think it's a glowingly huge recommendation, but I definitely think you'll have a good time if you're into this kind of slow burn, curse kind of mystery. You know, there's a scene where she does a research montage at the library and she's going through all the books and she's going through all the old newspaper clippings. And if seeing a scene like that just warms your heart like it does for me, you're going to like this thing. I definitely am excited to see what people think about it once it comes out next week. But Ari, do you have any questions for me as someone who has not seen the movie?
I was just wondering, how confident would you say you are that this will do well enough to get a sequel? I know it had an extremely low budget, but it has happened where movies have flopped that terribly. I don't personally see it flopping that terribly. I could see it maybe not making like 20 million, but I feel like this thing has gotta at least make some sort of profit, right?
Yeah, EDM says Shelby Oaks is going good boy vibes. The word of mouth is strong. I was kind of nervous coming out of those first. It's been over a year since they showed this thing, I think, or at least close to it. And it was shown once and then not really shown again for a really long time. And that made me nervous, especially when they were rolling it out and they were showing it only to the contributors, the Kickstarter funders, and that kind of thing. I was wondering, are they not nervous about this? But it seems like they're pretty confident. Like they just showed it to all these people at this mystery movie.
Yeah.
I should probably also mention that I am a funder of this movie. I'm reviewing it, but I did contribute a small amount of money to it, but like enough to help Stuckmann along a little bit. Give my little tiny pinch on the giant pot that became Shelby Oaks.
I would probably not hope it goes good boy vibes because people were so excited for that movie, but I've not heard a lot of chatter actually about that film. What you mentioned, the format change. Did the transitions through the formats work well?
Yeah, they're very, very cool. The transition, especially from the found footage into like the more traditional horror filmmaking, is really cool. That shift is really fun. There's a great, I don't want to call it great, but it's really good opening credit sequence that gets you right to the vibe. And the biggest accomplishment of this movie is that vibe. It gives you hooked into like this dark, rain-drenched kind of forest town. Reminded me a little bit of Twin Peaks, where it's like this family who has these hidden secrets and this girl with this life you can't understand, and you're desperately trying to figure out, you know, who this woman is, and you never really can get a grasp of her.
Oh, speaking of Twin Peaks, I'll just mention this now. I was going to mention this as the news, but there was a poster release of the film that was very similar to, made people think of Twin Peaks. It's Where is Laura, whatever the last name of the character is in this, and there was a lot of uproar online. People like he kind of connects to what you were talking about, how he wears influences on his sleeve maybe a bit too much, and you had that. What did you see a lot of Twin Peaks influence in the film?
Absolutely, especially in the story. The story is really, really good here. I think he runs into a lot of first-time filmmaker stuff. Like I mentioned, he's pacing problems, influence is obvious, and that kind of stuff. But the story itself is really compelling. And by the time they start unraveling the mystery, I was really invested. And I was like, man, I want to find out what happened to this lady. You know, I got to know what's going on here. And I mentioned to you as well that this is the first time in a very, very long time that I came home from a horror movie and I was actually kind of scared to go into my house. Like I had to turn all my lights on. I was like, let's turn the TV on, you know, let's get some sound in here because I keep looking at the window behind me and kind of getting scared, you know. I keep having to double check. Is there somebody staring at me out there? I don't know.
Turn the TV on and play the Twin Peaks theme.
Yeah, the Twin Peaks influence I thought was definitely there. The small town thing of it and this blonde woman that everybody likes but seems to have all of these, you know, strange things in their past that you can't quite contemplate, and very clearly there's influence there.
How was the score? Because for me with horror, a score can make a movie good, but it can also make a movie less good in terms of there's a lot of scores. I would bring an example is, speaking of, there's a new It show coming out. I felt that those It movies, the newer ones, the score was good, but there were a lot of moments where it was just loud for no reason other than to scare you. How would you describe the score? Did you enjoy this?
I really like the score. The score was a great element of bringing you into that vibe and making you feel nervous even when nothing is even really happening necessarily. The people who did the score, the Newton brothers, who did Daredevil, Born Again, they've worked with Flanagan, who was a producer on this previously.
Yeah.
So they got a great composer in this.
Yeah, I see. That to me is the Mike Flanagan thing, because they would just work with him on Life of Chuck, I believe. So that was one of my biggest takeaways from that movie. Score was very good and inspirational. Like, who did this? Newton Brothers. When I heard they were doing Daredevil Born Again, I was kind of pissed because it wasn't the John Pisano who did the original show, but they are really good composers, and the fact that he got them means that Mike Flanagan was confident in this film.
Yeah,
and
he mentioned that was a contribution that Flanagan made. He essentially made that connection happen. He said that he had showed Flanagan his rough cut was like 2.5 hours long, because they became casual acquaintances through the internet, kind of just talking about movies here and there. And eventually Flanagan says, "Hey man, I know you want to make movies. Do you have any scripts you want me to read?" And he says, "Oh, hell yeah, I do." And he gives him like 3-4 scripts he's got done. And he says, "This one here, Shelby Oaks, and some other one he didn't mention by name. Those are the ones you should be working on." So Flanagan guided him towards Shelby Oaks and helped him out all along the way, right? And then once Stuckmann showed him that 2.5 hour rough cut, he was like, "You know what, Chris, I don't want to just help you. I want to produce this thing because you've got something here." And I think that's a great move for someone like Flanagan. You know, he's climbed up the ladder from super indie movies all the way up to being one of the biggest influences in horror. And it's very cool that he's able to lift up somebody like Stuckmann. And knowing Chris and how he is with people and how he's interacted with the fans in the past, he seems like the guy who's going to help somebody else up too, right? So once Chris climbs that ladder, he's going to be the guy to help somebody else up. And that's what I love about horror. It feels like the genre that really builds up independent voices and lets people who have no shot in making something else or something bigger go off and do whatever they want, right? And the fact that Chris was able to make this outside of the studio system let him do a lot of stuff that maybe wouldn't have been made. Like, he says that Flanagan guided him away from certain producers. He said, "Don't trust that producer or this producer." And I wonder if he was talking about Jason Blum, because as I was watching this, I was thinking about how much Blumhouse probably would have just butchered this thing up, throwing a bunch of like ironic young people into this and made it a lot more cheesy. And Stuckmann is able to do what he wants to do with this. So I was really impressed by that, at least.
And Mike Flanagan, the film he wrote, DC's Clayface, will be out like this time next year. And I know this is a wild thing to say, but what if Mike Flanagan has a good journey in DC, and in like 5 or 10 years, Mike Flanagan gets the influence and gets Chris Stuckmann to direct like a horror DC movie?
Impossible. It's really not impossible.
I don't think so. If this is the thing, is this movie doesn't need to get perfect reception and make a shit ton of money for him to be on a good path, because this film cost like $1 million before marketing, and I doubt this had a high marketing budget. And
in the end, executives aren't really caring all that much of like, is your movie great? The biggest accomplishment is, did you get the movie made, right? And the fact that Stuckmann got this thing made, got this thing released, and seems like he got along really, really well with people like Flanagan and people in the executive space. That's what matters, right? That's just going to get Stuckmann jobs again. As long as this thing's not utterly like bottom of the barrel garbage, he's going to get work. And even then, people who write Morbius get work to this day, you know, like all you got to do is know the right people.
And I would not be mad at Stuckmann for that Laura Palmer poster, because I doubt Chris Stuckmann was like, "Oh, let's do this poster." Like, it was probably the marketing team. We know he has all these influence. Let's throw this in here. So people getting mad at him, I would calm down.
If you're a fan of the horror YouTube space, there's some fun faces and voices to watch out for in the opening act of this. So keep your eyes and your ears peeled for that, especially if you're a Stuckmann lore enthusiast. There's people you're going to recognize from the Stuckmann inner circle.
You actually maybe not got me hyped, but I'm definitely more interested than I was like before you saw it tonight.
There's also some fun Stuckmann lore in that a good amount of this is shot at the Ohio State the Ohio State prison, like the abandoned prison in Ohio State where they shot Shawshank Redemption. And if you're familiar with Chris Stuckmann's channel, he's actually shot quite a lot at that prison. He became close with the owner. He's done interviews with the owner. So I would imagine that's what got him in there, right? It's that fun indie thing of like, hey, I've got access to this prison, so I'm going to come up with a reason for there to be a scary prison for like a scene. And I've got access to this scary abandoned theme park, so I'm going to make there be a scary abandoned theme park for that scene. It has that like Evil Dead kind of duct tape together. I've got access to this and I've got a camera. I'm just going to go make it. And I really enjoyed that element of it. A lot. Yeah, like I said, keep your eyes out for this Stuckmann lore, though. If you're a Stuckmann fan, if you're a movie YouTuber fan, there's some people to recognize. I really enjoyed Shelby Oaks. Was happy to have Michael on for this thing on. Let's move on to unfortunately, some downer news. Movie poster legend Drew Struzan has passed away. He's the honor of our background right now, and we wanted to mention him because, of course, he's the artist behind some of the best posters of all time, some of the most influential posters in both of our lives, some of the most influential franchises that have been part of our lives. So, Ari, do you have any thoughts about Drew Struzan and any favorite posters you want to call out for him?
Just like what an absolute legend! Like the sheer amount of iconic posts. I mean, like he did, I believe every Star Wars movie, if not basically most of them. And I mean Hook, E.T., the second, Jurassic Park. I mean, he did the Back to the Future films, right?
So, yeah, Back to the Future, very iconic.
If you want to really honor Drew Struzan, go to the re-release of Back to the Future. See that on the big screen, and you'll get to see one of his posters in the theater one more time when you go to the theater. But yeah, what an absolute legend! I mean, how would you even rank these? The first two Harry Potter movies. I mean, to me, the posters of those first two Harry Potter films, those are like top 10, maybe top 5 movie posters of all time. I mean, what an absolute legend, and he was not that young. So what an absolute tragedy. He'll be sorely missed. I mean, but honor him by watching some of those iconic films.
Yeah, I think about the poster for The Thing. That's such an iconic image of that masked face coming through with the light coming out of the mask. You look at that and you're just like, man, I got to figure out what that is. Like, I got to go see that movie. I think about the original Revenge of the Jedi poster with Luke having the red lightsaber fighting Darth Vader, and you say, man, what's this movie going to be? Those posters are perfect. You look at it and you're just like immediately thinking, man, I got to see this movie, right? And I think the art of the movie poster has absolutely been lost over the last few years. It's all just become images and just kind of random content. You don't really have like, here's the poster of the movie, and here's like the art of this really well-crafted, put-together poster. But Drew Struzan is the poster guy. When you think about movie posters, you think about Drew Struzan. When people think about classic, old school, like when Wonder Man made a poster that was very Drew Struzan inspired, because when we think about classic film posters, we go to Drew Struzan's art style. I think about Return to Oz. That was such a great poster from him. What a great art style. And yeah, he's influenced so many of our favorite franchises: Blade Runner, Indiana Jones, Star Wars. I know Ross is a huge fan of Hook, and he did the poster for Hook, so I want to shout out that. But yeah, sad to see such a great artist go out. But if you're going to go out, you're leaving behind probably the best legacy of anyone in this entire space, right? No movie poster artist is going to be remembered to the level of Drew Struzan ever. So he is the king of movie posters, the ultimate legend of movie posters, and he's going to be remembered forever because of that work.
And I'll be honoring him soon because I plan on finally watching Return to Oz before Wicked for Good releases.
Yeah, Return to Oz. Talk about David Lynch influence.
Will I enjoy that one?
Maybe. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I remember enjoying that one quite a lot. EDM says his Star Wars art is iconic. Still wonder how I'll take John Williams passing. Yes.
Should we move?
As a Star Wars fan, it is definitely a sad time. We're on the edge for a lot of these people.
Should we move on to our next unfortunate passing?
Kiss rock legend Ace Frehley has passed away. I wanted to bring him up because Kiss is a huge part of my childhood, and I think about Ace Frehley all the time when I think about Kiss. He is Kiss, right? His guitar solos, his riffs, that's what made Kiss incredible. And there's been this viral interview that I wanted to mention where he's on a talk show, and the talk show host is it's him and the entire Kiss band, and they're asking Ace Frehley, like, oh, so you're dressed up like a spaceman. What are you, some kind of like astronaut or something? And he says, no, actually, I'm a plumber. And he starts laughing like this really hyenic level laugh. And they cut to Gene Simmons, and he's just not laughing. He takes this band so seriously. He thinks Kiss is like the most genuine and very, very serious metal band of all time. And he hated that Ace Frehley had so much fun. He hated that Ace Frehley saw that Kiss was kind of a joke, right? That he was able to go on these interviews and have a lot of fun, make fun of the costumes, make fun of the music, and then go back it up by being one of the best guitar players of all time. He had so many great solos, and he was great too because his solos are very approachable. When I was a teenager and I was learning guitar, I would go to Ace Frehley's solos because they made you feel awesome, but they were also pretty approachable. So not all of them, but a lot of his biggest ones were solos where even as a beginner, you could sit there for like a few days and you could figure it out and you could play it and you could feel like you were the best guitar player of all time because you nailed that Kiss solo. So to me, that's what I'll always remember about Ace Frehley is he had those solos that were awesome, but at the same time were something they could pull off. And I want to mention his movie history. I just, a few days ago after he passed, watched for the 100,000th time Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, this very, very terrible B movie where demonic Kiss beings take over a park and start killing members of the Kiss Army and setting up the Kiss Army to, make them look bad. So it's a really, really not a great movie, but you can find it on like YouTube and Facebook and stuff for free if you want to get some weird nostalgia.
It sounds like a good double feature. They did a movie with like that a few years ago with do you know what I'm talking about? That band that an actor from the band died like very soon before the movie came out. And he actually gets brutally murdered in the film.
Jeez.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with that.
What the hell? What was this called? It's embarrassing that I don't know the band name. It's a very well-known band. But the main guy, one of the main guys died, and the plot of the movie is like they're being like possessed or haunted, and the leader of the band has been possessed, and it just brutally murders all of them. And the guy who died, sadly, in real life, he has like one of the most brutal deaths, like those gold rings they use in band. He gets thrown this. And it was really fucked up. I think they might have delayed the movie because it was that. I don't know, but man, now I gotta know what this was called. God, that's depressing. I'll find it. Bring it back later.
Do you want to move on to Samantha Eggar, who also passed away?
Yeah,
a really prolific actress. You might know her for the voice of Hera in Hercules. You might know her for being in David Cronenberg's The Brood. You might know her for being in The Collector, where she got a Golden Globe and was a huge sweep at the Cannes Film Festival. Really beloved thriller. So, do you have any thoughts at all for Samantha Eggar? Are you familiar with any of her work?
No, unfortunately, I'm not very familiar. But very tragic, very sad.
I'll always remember her in All My Children. We watched that as a child. She was in that for a short amount of time. But yeah, Hercules. When I first heard this news, I absolutely thought of David Cronenberg's The Brood. She's very, very good in The Brood. We have another death this week, Penelope Milford. She was 77 years old. A lot of people passing out in their 70s. Penelope Milford, I'm not familiar with Penelope Milford's work, but you have movies like The Golden Seal, Coming Home. You have any thoughts on Penelope Milford? Are we familiar with her at all? She was nominated for an Academy Award for Coming Home for Supporting Actress.
Oh, Heathers. Yeah, I love Heathers. That's probably one of my favorite. That's probably one of my favorite '80s films. I don't think I'm familiar with much else, but very, very unfortunate. We're losing a lot of great actors.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but it's nice when actors get to leave behind such a great legacy. You You feel bad about seeing Samantha Eggar pass away. Go see absolutely fucked up, terrible things happen to her in David Cronenberg's The Brood. See some real terrible things happen to that woman in that movie.
Oh, I found it. It was Studio 666 from 2022.
Oh, the Foo Fighters movie.
Yeah. It made me think of that. That was an interesting, pretty fucked up movie. But yeah,
EDM says Kisses like Elton John and Grateful Dead, Hall of Famers that were underappreciated Grammy-wise. I always felt like Kiss got the short end of the stick. You know, they were treated like a joke and they made just like corporate, goofy metal. But you know all those songs, man. You know where Detroit Rock City is. EDM wants a Kiss multi-biopic rather than a Beatles project. There's so many strong personalities. It would be really, really fun to see a Kiss multi-biopic.
EDM is gonna hate me for this, but I'm one of those people that's not like Annie Hall. That New York humor just did not work for me at all. I mean, I love Noah Baumbach, which I guess you could say I'm a hack for that because he's very much inspired from mimicking Woody Allen. But at least he's not a yeah. We don't need to say those things out loud, but
I'm curious if that's going to happen a lot, where a celebrity actor or actress or director dies, and then they bring their greatest films back to the theater.
Because it happens, but it's not like there are even big actors who have died recently where they don't do anything like that. I remember when Chadwick Boseman passed away, they put, I think, 43 back in theaters, but they don't always do it. So I'm curious, they did it with Diane Keaton and they did it with Robert Redford. Interestingly, though, both times it was AMC. So is AMC signed a deal with Taylor Swift, or they're going to sign a deal with actors that, when you die, your movies can play at AMC theaters? But yeah,
I really like Annie Hall. I'll stand against you, Ari, and say I think Annie Hall is really funny. I think their relationship is pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the vast minority at One Best Picture. Everybody loves that movie.
Speaking of Taylor Swift, you got some Taylor Swift news.
What?
We mentioned last week that she was kind of struggling with that new album release, and they decided to. Now it's not only a new documentary, but a new docu-series coming to Disney Plus, and both of them are focusing not on this new album, but on the Eras tour, which ended a long time ago. But she seems to be reaching back to the past very, very quickly, trying to shove this new album out of the door and be like, remember when we had a great time with that tour? Wasn't that tour awesome? Let's forget about the life of the showgirl.
I have a nihilistic take on this.
Oh, you do? Give me your nihilistic take.
Unless I got the definition of nihilistic wrong. But I take this as she doesn't want to move forward. She wants to look at the past and the thing that was her most successful thing ever. And she wants to focus on that and make a series about it. And why not do that? Look at Hollywood as a whole. We're looking at the past at this great moment. Why should I try it again when I can just literally just make a documentary about it? So is the documentary film a Disney Plus too?
Yeah, they both can be on Disney Plus.
Okay. So it's not going theatrical. I think they learned with this movie that they can make money off her, but they're not automatically going to be making like $70 million opening weekend. It's got to be something special. And who knows if she'll get that moment again. Like, will she be able to, again, put out a concert film and, like, make that much?
You're not going to capture lightning in a bottle like that again, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think she's noticed that her follow-ups to that have not been as successful, and this one's clearly not hitting. I mind my business. God's my witness that I don't provoke it. It's kind of making me wet.
Is that from The Showgirl?
That's from The Life of a Showgirl.
Jesus Christ. Okay. We can move. We ended the show last time with that. Now we can move on to another topic.
Okay.
Should we move on to box office?
Let's do some box office talk. Black Phone 2 debuted.
Yeah.
Blumhouse has had a rough year, but it looks like Black Phone 2 is going to help them stay afloat.
They went from Megan 2.0 disaster box. I mean, the movie is incredible. The movie is
great movie,
phenomenal. But that made $10 million opening weekend. Huge disaster. This made $27 million. The first one, made $23 million. And so I would imagine we get another one. Maybe they give it a lower budget, but I don't know. This one went up, so and we'll see what kind of legs it has. I've surprised. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect from this, but I'm not hearing bad things. So I'll definitely be watching it.
Horror is usually a pretty good success at the box office, especially a horror sequel. And Megan 2.0 probably flopped because it abandoned the horror. And they maybe would have gone the other direction and gone hard R crazy horror with it. Maybe they would have had a surprise hit, but it didn't happen.
If they made a third one on a lower budget and went horror, they could have some sort of success again?
I think that's the right direction. I think as much as I love Megan 2.0, it seems like it did not go over well because of that crazy tonal switch. It was no longer a horror movie at all, right?
So since we're in box office, I'll go to this. Apparently, Tron Ares is set to lose at least $130 million. At least. I don't know about you, but I don't like. This movie was never going to be a success. Like Tron, nobody cares about Tron. They should have made this like the cheapest they possibly could, and maybe they did. I don't know, maybe they did, but I just don't understand why anyone was surprised by this in any way. And I'm sorry, I gotta say it again. Tron's dead. We're not getting.
It's rough for Disney because Disney literally has a theme park. Like they have rides, very expensive stuff focused on Tron. They really wanted that thing to work, and it's going to be a rough one. They're probably going to have to tear down some theme park attractions or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, Tron the musical on Broadway?
Maybe.
Would people see that?
Young Tron Adventures.
I don't know, but Michael under the channel's account comments, Megan 2.0 phenomenal. I think now we know whose comments we're hiding.
God, trying to censor Megan. We can't do this.
Yeah, that movie's incredible. Okay, I think that's good from box office. Good news for Blumhouse, and I think, this is going to become a long-running franchise.
Let's talk about one of the biggest stories of the week we haven't gotten to yet. Jim Carrey, at one point saying he was retired, he got pulled out of retirement by that pesky hedgehog, but he might be moving up to that great big apartment in the sky, joining the Jetsons. Do you think this is happening already, or would you be excited if it was happening?
I think this is going to happen. I was shocked by this. I would have never thought they would try. I mean, look what happened when they did the Flintstones in the 90s or whatever. Did not work. This is an interesting choice of director. I think it's maybe the best choice for a director.
Who's the director?
I mean, if you think about, listen, Dominion was terrible, absolutely horrible. But the first Jurassic World is, it's fun. It's a fun. When you watch Jurassic World, if you told me this guy would do the Jetsons, I can see it. I think that's a good bet. I've seen some speculation that I've seen people say, because I don't think the news says like he's playing George Jetson. So maybe he doesn't lead it and he just plays a villain, but I don't know. Part of me, like, if this announcement comes out about Jim Carrey, will it really come out if he's like the villain or something? I don't think so. And people like, he's too old, and like, it's Jim Carrey. Nobody's crying that the ages aren't right for the Jetsons.
Or just have them be older. Like, just age up the character.
Well, I also heard a theory that Jetsons is a futuristic thing. What if there's a time travel angle to it, where like they go to the future? So maybe you have younger actors as in to. I don't think there's an actor that can pull off young Jim Carrey, but I did hear the name throughout. If it wasn't Jim Carrey, like Steve Carell, because can you really see Jim Carrey with a family and a bunch of kids? To me, that's what excites me about this. That's the one thing, to see him in that like family man position. And in terms of leading like the Jetsons, I honestly can see it. Like when you say Jim Carrey, he's too goofy. I don't know. He's pulled off good dramatic roles, and yeah, I honestly can see. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I really am excited for it. I hope Jim Carrey's back. I think he'd be a great lead, and I really would be excited to see a Jetsons movie come to life. It could be the return of this optimistic sci-fi. We've had a long time of really miserable movies. I think we could see a return, especially as stuff is going a little bit more towards the nostalgia, more towards the traditional in the filmmaking. You could see a rise of these nostalgic space age stuff. I think it's interesting as well because the premise of the Jetsons is that they all have to live above the atmosphere because the Earth has been so polluted that it can't hold life anymore. So there's a lot of political commentary I'm sure you could do with that. And Jim Carrey is a pretty politically minded guy. I think he would like to see some of that statement being there of like, okay, why can't we abandon Earth? And what is the elitistness of being able to be up here on these high-rise apartments while the Earth literally dies, right?
So the Earth is still like people are still living there while it's polluted.
I think so. I haven't watched the Jetsons in a long time.
It's funny that there's the Fantastic Four comparison because I saw one film critic make a commentary on the new Fantastic Four that had a fascistic angle, and so that's interesting. They're living in these perfect. I hope there's an actual criticism. Yeah, and I saw that comment, and I just wanted to mention: would it be really fucked up if this movie is like a million times better than the new Fantastic Four?
It could be.
I'm not saying it will be, but who knows? Like that's a good movie, but it doesn't like blow you. The futuristic stuff was cool, but it's kind of just it's just there. They're not like making a big deal out of it or anything. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious who shoots this. I'm curious who shoots this because that's going to be what not could make or break the movie, but that's a big aspect of the movie. How are you going to make this look good? But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I'm curious if this is happening, which I do think it's going to happen. Who plays the wife? Who plays the kids?
Yeah, once you get more of a better idea of what this is going to be, I'll feel differently, or at least clearer about it. We know what the tone is going to be. Is it going to be just totally goofy, like a straight up kids comedy, or is it going to be trying to walk that line of saying something or having some kind of political commentary, or is it just going to be a fun comedy adventure, right? And both could be good, but once you get a better idea of what the movie is going to be, I'm really excited to see it because, yeah, the Jetsons are a great premise and Jim Carrey is a great, great fit.
Yeah, I do have an easy guess on who will be the composer because Colin Trevorrow worked with Michael Giacchino on the Jurassic World films. He did all three. And funnily enough, he just did Fantastic Four. So he's we're gonna have that connection. And that's gonna be pretty ironic. And I think Jetsons, Michael Giacchino, it fits like Thanos' glove. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this, and we'll definitely be talking about it when casting eventually happens.
We've got a couple stories left here. Let's talk about Ethan Coen reuniting once again for a third movie with Margaret Qualley, his third lesbian road trip adventure through the South in a row. How are you feeling, Ari, about this? Once again, Ethan Coen going back to the well.
Nobody cares. Nobody's gonna see this. It's gotta be like independent backers, whatever you call that, because there's no way it's a big studio is putting money into this. My only guess is that whoever runs one of these companies is just like a huge Coen Brothers fan. He's like, I want to be able to say I worked with one of the Coen Brothers. I know it's not going to make money, but maybe it's good, maybe it's remembered well. I don't see a studio. This is not. Hopefully it's good. I mean, hopefully if this is the last one, at least goes on a good note. But these guys, they just got to come back together.
Yeah, they've been talking since the beginning of Drive-Away Dolls that this is a trilogy. This is their lesbian B-movie trilogy, they've been calling it. So this is the third movie of that trilogy. I'm hoping that now that they've got this goofiness out of their system, maybe they can come back together, reunite, and get the best of both worlds back together again, right? Because Ethan Coen clearly has that like whimsical, fun, high-energy side of the Coen brothers, where his brother has that super highbrow, kind of serious take, and blending them both together is what made the Coen brothers special. But I'll go check this out. I liked Drive-Away Dolls. Honey Don't, I was not as into, but I'd be curious to see them cap off this trilogy, wrap things up and get us out of what this is going on. I'm happy that they're ending things. I hope this is the end of this adventure. I don't necessarily need to see Ethan Coen reunite with his brother, but I do want to see him get away from this exact same aesthetic. It feels like he's doing the same thing here and starting to feel a little bit lazy, right? I appreciate a trilogy. I appreciate like having thematic connections and your continuous style and that kind of stuff. But Honey Don't was such a step down from Driveway Dolls, which already was not super great. So I'm not hopeful for this, but I'm gonna watch it. And
So Chris
we'll
Evans as a priest, that didn't blow you away?
did not blow me away.
We forgot about one. Ed Williams from Police Squad and Naked Gun passed away at 98 years old.
98 years old. What a run.
So we got to mention it. Yeah, speaking of people left behind a legacy, and you can be proud to talk about the legacy. That's a full life. So it's sad, but that's more of a more happier, like we can celebrate it. He lived a very long life.
EDM mentions that Margaret Qualley in Blue Moon made them wonder about her range. She might be an actor that casting the right roles would be crucial for their longevity. And I feel similarly that she seems to be playing basically the same character and doing the same performance with maybe a little bit of a different voice or a little bit of a different, mannerism or something like that. But she's always kind of like that spunky, you've seen the performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You've seen what she does in basically everything.
Yeah, I was about to mention maybe her for Jetsons, but for a potentially fun movie, I would worry that would maybe be also the same thing.
All right, what else do we got for news? That's all I've got on my list. Anything else you want to bring up?
There's definitely some more we have. So, let's see. The Wicked. The John M. Chu revealed, he was teasing the other day that the lion is going to be voiced by a celebrated actor. And that celebrated actor is none other than Coleman Domingo. Fear the Walking Dead's Coleman Domingo is back in Wicked as the Cowardly Lion. Do you think this is incredible, outstanding casting to have someone with a great, suave, deep, gravelly voice as the Cowardly Lion?
I'm really curious how he'll pull it off because it's not like a gigantic role, I would think. Like it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not spoiling it when I say that, but like it just feels like there's not going to be a huge role in the movie, right? And it's not really the story of like Dorothy or anything like that. But I think he's an acclaimed actor. I think he's been nominated twice for Academy Awards. People really, really like him, so I think he counts. But yeah, the fact that he has such a cool voice, he's going to be playing a cowardly character. I mean, you can do voice acting. You can change his voice a little bit, but even if he doesn't, the irony could be fun, right? Like in the original Wizard of Oz, the lion has that really grand singing performance where he's, really operatic and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then he speaks so loudly, but yet he's actually cowardly and tame. That's kind of the whole point, right?
See, I did not think about that. I did not think about that angle. But in the original, that's not a voice you would associate with a lion. So they could be doing the same thing here in another way where Coleman Domingo is this suave, gravelly voice. I didn't think it is something interesting. We also have this broke very soon after the last episode.
I want to mention too that the Coleman Domingo inclusion could just be straight up trying to get the casting Oscar because you're like one more really big beloved actor who's on the cast list, even if he only has a couple of scenes. He's someone that could come up on stage and help them secure that elusive casting Oscar. We don't even know what they're going to be doing with that in terms of their thought process. But it can't hurt to throw on Coleman Domingo, someone that the Oscars clearly love a lot.
I'm not crying about it. I love Coleman Domingo. Mel Gibson's Resurrection of the Christ found its new Jerry in his new Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And I don't know why I said Jerry. Jerry Seinfeld.
Probably because it's a white guy.
What's the deal with Seinfeld? Jocko Otonen and Mariella Griga. So not people we're familiar with. Why does this guy look like Hayden Christensen with blonde Arnold hair? I don't know why. And I'm not familiar with actress. Yeah, I don't know really to say at this news. I've not seen the original film. Do you have any thoughts on this news?
I don't like the casting. We theorized, are they going to go for someone who would be racially accurate to the place and the time? They didn't do it. So I'm bummed
Definitely
about that.
not.
You'd think that he could maybe like modernize a little bit,
Definitely not.
but that is a bad sign for Mel Gibson, and I think a bad sign for what this movie is going to be. He's not learning from his mistakes. He's not embracing any criticism. He's saying,
Definitely
"Look, I made a bunch of money for the last one, so why would I change really anything?" So who knows?
So
but
this
is probably going to make an insane amount of money. It's probably going to be like one of the highest grossing movies of all time.
I mean, look at this rise of like evangelical Christianity and how this administration is embracing it. Like, this movie is going to make a lot. So we also had this cost of Rise of Skywalker apparently reached $600 million. Disney's revealed the final budget for Rise of Skywalker was nearly $600 million, making it the third most expensive film of all time. It made 515 domestic and narrowly crossed $1 billion worldwide. But with the final budget, that's not very profitable.
No, that's pretty bad, and it's telling because like a movie can be literally in like the top 15 highest grossing movies of all time and still not be that profitable for the studio that made it because it just cost them that much money.
And and then we also had this. Emma Roberts is set for a feature take of Rebecca. I love
Rebecca.
What was that?
I do love Rebecca. Really great classic film.
Did you see the one from like, what was it, 2020?
No, I heard that was terrible, so I did not watch that.
You wanted to talk about this. The Bill Simmons news?
Bill Simmons news. Oh, right. The Ringer and a lot of their media podcasts have moved from YouTube to Netflix. That's a very huge blow on YouTube because that was very, very popular. One of the most watched movie podcasts comes out of The Ringer, Rewatchables, their biggest shows, the Big Picture. Those are all going to be moving from YouTube to Netflix, and that includes, I believe, the back catalog being removed from YouTube and moved to Netflix. So Netflix is embracing the podcast space. They're embracing some form of live video space, and I've been very curious over the last few days how this might affect the Ringer's coverage of Netflix films. Are they going to be afraid to go in and tear apart not just Netflix, but any film, right? The co-host of The Big Picture, she's not afraid to rip into a studio movie, to rip into a blockbuster, to tear apart a franchise. If you're on Netflix, is there going to be more control over what you say?
Yeah, so what if she tears apart some Netflix films? How is Netflix going to feel about that?
And I think it's also just an interesting blow against YouTube, who has been essentially the number one source of streaming video on the internet, even more than all these other platforms. And a lot of that is because of podcasts. A lot of that's because of live shows that the streaming platforms have not been able to really recapture. They've tried to do live events, and they work here and there, but it's not been like your go-to thing, right? They have talk shows here and there with like David Letterman and that kind of stuff, but nothing that's lasted long term. So I really hope that they don't buy up the Ringer, make it terrible, and then it never comes back again, and then it's just worse, So I really hope that's not the result of this.
We also had some Leonardo DiCaprio news. Appian Way is developing a biopic of young Bela Lugosi for Universal, and Ed Wood, Scott Alexander, is going to be writing it.
Sounds pretty fun. I'll watch that.
And then, and then we had Lawrence Fishburne had some comments. He was asked about Star Wars, and he said, "I don't want to participate in it, but I'm be there from my couch. I'm currently watching Rebels." So he's a Star Wars fan. Maybe in a few years he'll change his mind after getting through all Star Wars. Maybe he'll change his mind and he'll be like, "I want to play a badass old." What about him as an old, Mace Windu?
Why would you not just bring Samuel L. Jackson back?
Yeah, but what if he doesn't want to do it? What if he doesn't want to do it? You got a good backup. But
he's talking about Star Wars Rebels. I would love to see him someday do a voice role. Maybe they can talk him into that, right?
Yeah,
you don't gotta leave your couch.
He was at, and he did make some comments about Marvel. He said, "I hear they got that X-Men reboot going. I do Professor X. I love it when someone's being interviewed in a setting like that, and they're asked a question, but then they actually bring in something else without you asking them. Like, oh, I should mention this. Sigourney Weaver, was that last week? Did we talk about that last week? Was she talking about that Alien script that Walter Hill. No, I don't think so. Yeah, she randomly mentioned that she was on Happy Sad Confused at New York Comic Con. She mentioned that Walter Hill is writing an Alien script about an older, Ripley. It's sort of a more meditative, less action-oriented thing. I mean, what do you?
I'd be curious to see her come back. I don't know why this guy's out here just casually writing Alien scripts. He doesn't have the rights to make Alien. Like, he can't just go make it. Like, he has to get the studio's permission. He has to get the producer's permission. There's a lot of hoops you got to get through. But it's clear, I think, that she has some interest in coming back. But I think she doesn't want to just come back and say, "Get away from her, you bitch," and do all the lines again. She wants to come back and have it be some kind of different take.
But is Disney, are they going to fund an Alien movie that's a slower, more meditative? No. I don't really. I could see a mixture, like you get the Alien movie and then you put that in there.
And this is not going to happen, right? We already have this other Alien franchise budding. We have the Predator thing budding. We have Ridley Scott. His ideas are so budding. I think that probably happens. This is not happening. They wouldn't be talking about it if it was happening.
I can see them bringing her into something in a smaller role. But
but not this script.
Not this. But in terms of the Lawrence Fishburne, I side. But in terms of that, I mean, could you see him as Professor X?
I could really see it. I think it would be great casting, but it's not going to happen if he's talking about it in an interview right now. I think if there was a conversation happening in any capacity, he would not be talking about it in this interview.
But
and
now maybe
I think it's most likely they might already have the Professor X and they already have the Magneto, and they're just not telling us right now.
Bryan Cranston. But we had this comments from the Duffer Brothers confirming that the series finale is going to be 2 hours long, and they wanted to play in movie theaters so the fans could experience it at the same time. But Netflix chief content officer Bella Bajaria shut it down, saying a lot of people have watched Stranger Things on Netflix. It's not suffered from lack of conversation or community or sharing your fandom. I think releasing on Netflix is giving the fans what they want. So, not happening. It was maybe a dream of ours, but it's unfortunately not going to happen.
I see their logic. When you look at something like K-pop that had to really take advantage of its building up fandom, right? Like K-pop had this slow build where it released on Netflix, and then all of a sudden they were like, what the hell? This is a #1 movie for like weeks upon weeks, and we should be probably pushing this as like our big Oscar thing. So when they had to build a fandom, when they had to bring together people who like it, they did it. Stranger Things doesn't really need the help, right? I think Stranger Things is going to be the most watched Netflix release of all time. It's not even going to be close. Everyone's going to be watching that thing. It doesn't matter if it comes out on New Year's. It doesn't matter if it comes out on Christmas. People will just watch it the next morning or whatever, or they'll watch it at their Christmas party. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't celebrate Christmas, so they're just going to watch it anyway. And a lot of families watch Stranger Things. I'm sure they're going to sit down, open up their gifts, put the cookies out for Santa, get his milk ready, and then go sit there and watch Stranger Things.
Yeah, you can't forget about all the Jews, We're going to be watching Stranger Things that night. And maybe people on New Year's Eve, they start the new year with watching Stranger Things. Like midnight, let's turn on Netflix right fucking now. But in terms of Netflix, we could jump to that K-pop Demon Hunters is returning to theaters. Halloween weekend, we broke this news on the show last week, and it is happening. It's coming back to theaters Halloween weekend. But here's the big deal about it. Here's the big thing. AMC is participating, and AMC is notoriously forever not shown. We don't show streaming. We don't show Netflix. We don't do any of that. I don't know if they show Apple. Did they show Killers of the Flower Moon?
I believe they did.
Well, they did that and F1. Yeah, so that's a different situation. But this is a huge deal, and is AMC in the business with Netflix now?
I think they saw how much K-pop made the first time, and they were like, we were complete fools to sit that thing out. And they just kind of took the L and went with the tail between their legs to Netflix and said, hey, guys, can we get a deal done? I think it's pretty telling that AMC came to Netflix for this, right? They probably said, hey, look, we give up. We want to get in on this K-pop thing. Give us some of that sweet, sweet Netflix money. And I wonder... Yeah, Netflix is still in that gray area in terms of their theater future, right? Is this K-pop Demon Hunters thing kind of a one-off cultural event for them, or is there going to be a movie like this every year now from Netflix that becomes their big event movie that becomes what they talk about all year round? They've done such a great accomplishment of making K-pop Demon Hunters be the center of conversation for like 6 months now. Like we're in October, about to be November, and we're still talking about K-pop Demon Hunters almost every week on this show. It's just really great marketing work from Netflix. And you think about Netflix working with AMC in the future, especially if K-pop Demon Hunters is a hit. Why would they not, right?
And do you think there's a chance after it ends we could see Stranger Things, maybe like the last couple episodes?
I think it's possible, especially if it goes over really well with fans and people are liking it and talking about it and seeing it all the time. Maybe they do have some kind of event like that.
So, in terms of streaming, yeah, I did want to mention. Oh yeah, you can mention. I did want to mention this comment. South by EDM South Park did Passion of the Christ better than Gibson. Have you seen that episode? Would you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. I think they had a lot more fun, and they very, very directly parodied it. I don't remember what they called it, but it was some pun directly on the name of Passion of the Christ. Great episode. Not a great movie.
Yeah, not the greatest news here in terms of streaming. Percy Jackson season 3 cast Kate McKinnon as Aphrodite. How do we feel about this news?
Aphrodite is played by Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon's career doesn't seem to be going that well. She's had a couple of attempts to break into the movie space. It hasn't really worked out. She's very funny on SNL, but she doesn't seem to have been able to work out outside of that. There was this whole generation of SNL graduates who were really successful in the comedy movie space, and the newest generation, even great actors like Bill Hader, seem to be struggling to find anything.
And if you look at something like Ghostbusters, which is maybe not the greatest movie, she's great in that. To me, she was like the standout of the movie. She's very talented. Like, this is someone who's very funny. She should be in a lot of great stuff, but it's just not happening, man. We did have, this is a story, I guess. First look at Woody and Buzz in Toy Story 5, and it's just random shots of them with the cloud background. They look like Buzz and Woody.
We got to bring that up. Okay, hold on. We got to analyze this Woody and Buzz reveal, all right? Because this is some deep, deep marketing. Look, Woody and Buzz, they're back. It's officially Woody and Buzz.
It definitely is.
It's very funny because they straight up there's nothing changed. Like they didn't change anything about how they look, about their character designs.
Exactly the same.
Are you excited for this movie? Because I'm not quite sure how to feel about it.
No, I'm not excited. I'm going to see it. I'm going to be there. I'm definitely going to be there. Acres of movies asks, who would you cast for Jane Jensen? I don't know. That's such a tough. I think you would have to think of actresses who would have chemistry with Jim Carrey.
Somebody who's got to be a little low energy. Like, he's such a high energy actor. There's got to be somebody who's a little more contained that can match him.
We could see him reteam with who am I wrong, or did he work with what's her name? The mom from Get Out.
The mom from Get Out.
Catherine Keener. Am I crazy, or did they work together once?
They may have. I'm not super familiar with everything that he's done.
But that's an actress that I could see him getting along with. There's also she was. I don't know if she plays his wife, but she was in Kidding with him. But I don't know. There's so many actresses.
I would love to see Catherine O'Hara. She could be very funny off of Jim Carrey.
I think that's a possibility because of this sort of comeback. We've seen her have. You see Laura Dern?
Laura Dern would be fun.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a ton of comedy experience, but she has been funny in movies, right?
Yeah, that is true. Sandra Bullock. No, I don't really. Yeah, I don't really see that. Sorry. Julia Roberts, I don't know if I see it. And it's got to, I don't think you want to get a gigantic star for that. Because you have Jim Carrey, who's going to want to take up all of the energy.
I'm sticking with my Catherine O'Hara bet. That's what I'd go with.
Yeah, I could see that. EDM mentions about the OpenAI updating Sora 2 policies after so. Yeah, I saw Bryan Cranston talking about this, saying his answer was interesting because it was basically, don't do this. I don't want improper usage with the AI. So he's not necessarily saying don't use any AI at all for what you want to do. Just there should be limits. So you shouldn't just be able to straight up use my image and make me say whatever you want, but you can post it online.
That's going to be the feature of these lawsuits, whether it's him or Scarlett Johansson. People who are like, look, that's literally my likeness, saying things I didn't say, doing things I didn't do. It makes you feel unsafe. It is stealing my work, and that's going to be where the lawsuits start coming in. And these AI companies are really going to start struggling as more and more limitations are put upon them, copyright-wise, legality-wise. Just now you can't use Sora to make violence or to make gore or to make this and that. A lot of the changes have happened in the last just few months to these platforms.
And it's interesting to see Bryan Cranston's response versus Guillermo del Toro. A screening of Frankenstein just ended with, and fuck AI. And then everyone clapped and cheered. But you gotta love Guillermo del Toro. Don't criticize Guillermo del Toro. Acres of Movie says Sophie Thatcher as the daughter. I could absolutely see that. She's a great actress, but she's also someone who seems like she will absolutely work with all the studios if it's good. She'll do something like that. I can see her as one of the X-Men. I think that is definitely a possibility. We had this was interesting. A first photo was revealed from a new Steven Soderbergh film starring Michaela Cole and Ian McKellen. That's to me my biggest takeaway from Ian McKellen in the Soderbergh movie. This sounds interesting. I know literally absolutely nothing about this film, but it is happening, and it is official. A few weeks ago, Dwayne Johnson was saying he's doing this Lizard Music, this Chicken Man movie. He lost 70 pounds. This is why I lost a bunch of weight. And we're like, okay, we'll see if this really happens after the reception and box office response of the Smashing Machine, but it is happening. It is officially happening. It's about a boy who sees a mysterious broadcast of lizards playing music and teams up with a 70-year-old man and his 111-year-old pet chicken, who's going to be played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Let's go.
This is how you know we're back.
The Smashing Machine did not work fully, but maybe this one will. Maybe now that they've worked together, they have more of a rhythm. And the Smashing Machine isn't bad. It's just not. It's not like a knockout of the park or anything. Now it's not a huge story, but it's interesting to me. The Walter Hamada story.
Well, I want to talk about The Rock for a second because
okay.
My biggest criticism on The Rock in the last few years, like the last decade or so, has been that he takes himself way too seriously. All of his movies are like, I'm very, very serious frontman. I do comedy here and there like Jumanji, but most of the time, he's the guy you take seriously. He's never the butt of the joke. And when he's playing a giant chicken, I feel like he's willing to make himself the butt of the joke again, and I think that's something that would help him a lot. When you look at his origin in someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who had those really serious roles, but he also had roles like Kindergarten Cop and stuff where he was able to be a lot more fun and play with his appearance and play with his known persona. So I hope The Rock can start embracing that.
Yeah, and also, Christopher Nolan did name The Rock the Performance of the Year, which, okay, that is great praise, and I'm sure it'll help him at the Oscars and maybe even make some people vote for him and not even watch the movie. But you also have to consider that Christopher Nolan just made a movie with two people involved with this movie. Benny Safdie, the director, was in Oppenheimer, and Emily Blunt was also in it. So this is a great thing to be hearing and will help his awards chances. But you also have to remember that this is a friend of those actors.
Yeah, I was going to say something nice when it boosts up the project. But yeah, Nolan saying you're the best performance of the year, how's that going to hurt you,
Yeah. Paramount re-upped its production pact with Walter Hamada's company, 18HC. And this is, usually I won't even mention something like this, But the fact that Paramount is trying to get Warner Brothers, and where was Walter Hamada just at and had all that drama happen? Warner Brothers. So he will definitely, he's at the company. If Paramount acquires Warner Brothers, he will run into James Gunn at some point. There will be that overlap. And so it's just an interesting situation.
Yeah, Walter Hamada left Warner Brothers in disgrace. He was involved in the downfall of the DCEU. He was involved in the abusive practices on the set of Justice League on and after the production of that movie. He heavily censored Ray Fisher's criticisms of Warner Brothers. So, are we going to see a weird situation where Walter Hamada ends up on top somehow and ends up working on these Warner Brothers projects again? I really hope not. But
this is I'm not religious, but let's pray that happen, because absolute loser for what they did to Ray Fisher and stuff. And now look at Ray Fisher, look where he's at. It's just so depressing. I mean, this is the guy who was on Broadway, and you're like, he's gonna be in Justice League, holy shit. And his performance in that movie was he's good in the theatrical cut, but it's not like that Snyder cut. That thing is great. I don't have this in the news, but I have to bring this up. Zack Snyder decided, he's only been on Instagram for a few weeks, decided to post a black and white monochrome film image of Henry Cavill in Batman vs Superman, and he said, Henry Cavill is Superman. Why?
Right.
Why would you phrase it like that? We say that James Gunn and Zack Snyder have nothing against each other. They have no beef, but why would you say this?
Yeah, it's interesting timing because it came out right at the downfall of the Peacemaker season. People were not up on that finale. And then it was especially people were sad because they wanted to see Superman, and Superman didn't show up. And then he says, here is Superman, the real Superman. I don't think he meant anything by it. I think he was just saying, hey, look, here's Henry Cavill. He'll always be Superman in my mind. Here he is in the suit, right? Would you think differently if someone posted a picture of Christopher Reeve and said, Christopher Reeve is Superman, or Brandon Routh, and they said, Brandon Routh is Superman? The fact that it's Henry Cavill and it's tied to the Snyder stuff and it's so recent makes it feel a bit more aggressive, but I think he's just celebrating his friend, remembering a great time in his life, and he's been sharing photography on Instagram quite a lot, and that's just one of the photos he shared, but it is odd timing, and Zach can't help but rile up the fans a little bit once in a while, right? He can't help post a little bit of a vague post about something or another just to get people engaged. But yeah, I don't think he was like saying an attack or like hinting that Henry Cavill is coming back or hinting that he hates the new DCU. I think it's possible he probably hasn't even like watched Peacemaker. Like, I don't think he knows what's going on,
You're right. He's too busy playing Fortnite with The Simpsons.
He's got real movies to make, Army of the Dead needs a sequel.
But also, someone, the thing is, all the Gun Bros, they absolutely do think that's what he meant. They absolutely think he tried to enrage people and be like, this is Superman. But I gotta mention, Icarus News commented about Rachel Zegler for a Gloria Estefan biopic. I didn't know this was happening, but this is happening. This came out just the other day that she is going. Gloria Estefan herself confirmed a biopic in her life is taking shape, and Rachel Zegler has been chosen to play her. I do not have any experience with her music, so I don't know how to comment. But I love Rachel Zegler, and I'd want her to, if this could be something that could vie for awards, I'd love to see her in a role like that. I really want only the best for this woman because she's so talented.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that she'll have a good career. She's struggled against things that are all not necessarily her fault. Like maybe she said a couple of cringy things in interviews or something, but like it's not her fault that Snow White was bad. She didn't make the movie. She didn't write the thing. It's not her fault how it turned out. She's just saying the words people gave her to say, right? So I feel bad that she's been caught up in a lot of bombs because she's been good in especially West Side Story. She was great.
So Paul Weitz, who wrote About a Boy and a few years ago directed a movie I really liked called Moving On, he is going to be directing a film with George Clooney and Annette Bening about the Amy Bloom memoir adaptation. I'm not really familiar with this, but I am up for anything new with George Clooney, and I like Annette Bening too, and I like that film. I'd like to get into his filmography when you'll watch About a Boy. Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, but I like George Clooney. I like Annette Bening. I love that George Clooney's still getting work. The movie was titled In Love. Director Paul Weitz is behind it. So,
and yeah, George Clooney coming back to acting. I haven't been the biggest fan of his recent directorial efforts, so I'm glad he's maybe realizing, it's time for me to do acting again. And then we had some casting for I Play Rocky, Peter Farrelly film. PJ Byrne, Toby Kebbell, Tracy Letts, and Jay Duplass. I really like Tracy Letts. I've loved him ever since Lady Bird. He had a quick cameo on this season of The Paper, and we also got a first look photo. The first look photo just looked like he's playing Rocky.
He looks like Rocky to me. I was kind of writing this movie off as just some kind of like Lifetime level movie, but it's starting to come together as something that actually looks pretty good, and it's getting a good cast. So I wonder if this is actually going to start delivering on Oscars or anything like that once it starts hitting.
To me, the idea of awards is very interesting because Stallone is not involved in this film at all. So it'd be interesting if this won Best Picture. Does Stallone, is he even there? Like, is he even with them at all? I don't think so. So it'd be a pretty interesting, bizarre situation. But this is the story that we cannot skip over. So this film by Tony Gilroy, Behemoth, this music film that apparently actors have been turning down because I believe it's Tony Gilroy, who anyone who joins the movie, you gotta either know how to play an instrument or you have to be willing to learn. So we have a new cast member joining Pedro Pascal and David Harbour is Eva Victor, who just had her directorial debut, Sorry Baby, which is actually hitting HBO at the end of the month, and she's going to star in this alongside of them. And to me, this is great news because that's one of the best performances of the year, and I can't wait to see. She could maybe not, maybe she won't get an Oscar, but I see this film as I would not be surprised if this ended up winning Best Picture when it comes out. We'll see. I think Pedro Pascal will be getting an Oscar nomination. Hopefully David Harbour, because I just can't help but root for that guy, man. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I'll talk about the Tony Gilroy element of it, and we talked about like something in the Shelby Oaks review was like, if this movie doesn't end up making a ton of money, it could still be good for Chris Stuckmann's career. And I think I look at Andor and I say, sure, Andor wasn't necessarily like the biggest hit. Maybe it didn't make Disney millions upon millions of dollars, but it's definitely revitalized this guy's career in terms of mainstream big stuff that's going to be getting attention that maybe wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So this is a movie that I wonder if it even like gets all this big name to it if it wasn't for stuff like Andor bringing him back. He was doing stuff like the Bourne Legacy and the Bourne films a long time ago as a writer, but this feels like a revival, right? Like it feels like Andor put him on the map of like, this guy's a great filmmaker. We got to work with this guy. We got to greenlight this guy.
EDM said Sorry Baby could be a sleeper original screenplay nomination with critic support. I sure hope so, man. I sure hope so, because that's a great screenplay.
Any other news you want to bring up?
There are a few more stories. We'll try to get through this quick. Warner Brothers Discovery filed Paramount rejecting Israeli film industry boycott. Not surprised. Not great news, but I'm not surprised. And then we had the trailer for Sam Raimi's Send Help. Looks okay. I'm not super, hyped for it or anything. And then right. We did have this. We had some comments from Finn Wolfhard being like, it's Stranger Things. He's worried it's going to be like Game of Thrones and everyone will hate it. I would not be worried about that. Also, these are completely different types of shows. Robert Englund is finally going to be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Weapons is coming to HBO soon. And Euphoria Season 3 has added some cast members. It has added Bella Podaris, Bill Bodner, Kaylin Rice, Colleen Camp, Daniel Deadweiler, Eli Roth, Gideon Adelon, Hamke Madera, Homer Gear, Jack Topalian, Jessica Blair Herman, Kwame Patterson, Madison Thompson, Matthew Wig, Natasha Lyonne, Rebecca Pidgeon, Sam Trammell, and Trisha Paytas. The one that's notable to me.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
Forgot about that one.
Oh, wait, you forgot about what?
I forgot about the Trisha Paytas at the end
Who
there.
is
The
this
little
person?
stinger.
Tell me
in
about
there.
her.
It's a lot to see to spill onto one episode, but she's had a long history of YouTube, odd behavior on YouTube, toxic behavior on YouTube, harassment and stuff like that. But she's a strong personality. She'll bring a lot to Euphoria. She honestly is a great addition to this show. She feels like a Euphoria character. So I think she's a good fit, to be honest. Eli Roth is a strange fit. He did work with The Idol.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not, in terms of the meta
not
sense,
too-
that weird. But like,
surprising.
what is Eli Roth going to be doing in this show? Like, is he going to be playing Eli Roth, or is he just going to be there for like as a random character?
That would actually be incredible. It does take place outside of LA, right?
Yeah, you could very easily have Eli Roth himself, or
Yeah.
depending on like, is this a time jump? Are we going to be following like Sydney Sweeney's character becoming an actress or something? Who knows where they're going to go with this? It's really the last season of Euphoria, right?
I think what's going to happen is it's going to be the last season, and it'll be in a way where, like, if one day you want to come back, you know, you can come back. But it's going to be the end, at least for a very long time. To me, now this here is the greatest story of maybe the entire year. We have an official poster for Anaconda, which comes out at Christmas. Take a look at this shot. You can't tell me that's not peak cinema. You're talking about Minecraft being in the ultimate meme movie? It's going to be nothing. Absolutely nothing compared to this.
It started to shape to look quite terrible, but
Wait,
we'll see how it goes.
What do you say?
The more a movie tries to be a meme, the more it just becomes a bad movie. And I have a feeling Anaconda is going to go across that line and become less of a meme and more of just a really shitty, not funny movie. But that poster made me feel less excited, to be honest with you.
It's certainly a poster. And then also tickets are on sale for the re-release of Wicked, which will be happening, I think, November 14th.
We got a question for you in the comments.
Okay.
EDM is asking about House of Dynamite, Buzz. You have seen House of Dynamite. Are you buzzing on the House of Dynamite?
It was good. I enjoyed it. I did not know some things in terms of the structure of the film, what it was going to be like. And I did like it. It's a good movie. I think maybe 10 years ago, like 2015, this would win Best Picture. But I feel like we're not in a place right now where we're giving a Catherine Bigelow film Best Picture. And in terms of actors, I don't really see anyone getting in. Maybe a very, very outside chance for a screenplay, but I don't really see much for this one. You know, maybe Catherine Bigelow will have a comeback, but I don't think it's this one. I did appreciate the ending. The ending is very, very interesting. You know, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of her. Someone saying I think Josh O'Connor would be a terrific Bond. I feel like Josh O'Connor is who you get if it's Nolan. He doesn't scream Villeneuve to me, but who knows? Maybe it'll happen. But
if you're a big House of Dynamite fan or you like the premise, you should watch Failsafe, Sidney Lumet movie. Very similar premise. U.S. accidentally shoots a nuclear warhead at Russia. They have a very short amount of time to talk with Russia, talk with the pilots, and avoid nuclear annihilation in the war room. So check out Failsafe for a very, very good version of that premise.
What I liked about the movie is it cuts between all these different characters and how are they reacting and dealing with this situation. And I won't say what it does, but halfway through the movie, it's interesting. But Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are going to be in an A24 film together. It's going to come out Easter weekend 2026. And here's why this is amazing news. It's going to be written, directed by Christopher Borgli, who did Dream Scenario, and also Alana Haim, and Mamoudi Athie, who I really like, and Haley Gates. And I think this is great news. Seems like Robert Pattinson is building a good relationship with A24. So
it's a hot couple right there. Can't wait to see what that romance looks like.
That really is.
I think Dream Scenario was like a 10 out of 10, but it was really creative. A lot of strange tonal shifts and that kind of stuff. So, and especially that main romance was really interesting. So I'm curious how he does it to a full-on romance.
Yeah, some pretty sad news. Paramount job cuts coming earlier than expected. These just horrible. Just horrible. I mean, in a time where it's harder than ever to get jobs, especially in Hollywood, very, very depressing.
And the studios are making more and more money in terms of their shareholders, in terms of their, their stock and their production. They're making so much money, but yet they're firing people.
Yeah, so there's no excuse. No Other Land team are going to self-release the Oscar-winning film on U.S. streaming platforms after rejecting the movie deal. Great
They
news.
rejected it for moral reasons, not financial reasons. But I think it's a good move to self-release this thing. They already kind of self-released it when it came to theaters, right? That was like a self-funded release. And it's a strong reminder that Hollywood presents itself as being this super liberally minded, super progressive part of the country that is always on the left side, always on the quote-unquote right side of history. But when it comes to actually doing something controversial or putting their money where it counts, putting their reputation on the line for something a little bit controversial like No Other Land, suddenly all that liberalism is out of the room and no one wants to release. Nobody even wants to touch it, and I'm happy it's finally getting a release because I think people have to see it. I kind of wish it had gotten a release a while ago because we would have been good to have that footage out there in the last few months, I think. But
yeah,
I'm glad it's going to be out there now.
Okay. I just want to make sure, Acres of Movies, I want to make sure you didn't misunderstand my thoughts. I hope you're not referring to Inside a Dislike too. I just want to make sure you weren't talking to me because I did like the film. I did like it. It wasn't like blown away by it. I don't expect that to be something in my top 10 at the end of the year. But Nikki Glaser will be hosting SNL. Glenn Powell will also be hosting SNL. And Miles Teller, he's returning for a second stint. It's interesting that the two Top Gun actors are both, in the same story. But yeah, I'm excited to see Glenn Powell host. I've been waiting for that.
I hope like there's a bit where Glenn Powell is trying to host and Miles Teller keeps interrupting him and being like, remember Top Gun? Wasn't Top Gun awesome? Remember how good I was in Top Gun? And Glenn Powell is like, yeah, that was a great movie. I'm trying to move my career along. And Miles Teller's like, yeah, I understand. He sits back down. 30 seconds later, he stands back up. He's like, remember when you saved me in Top Gun? Wasn't that so cool?
That'd be incredible. It's like, yeah, well, I'm in other movies, though. It's like, well, yeah, but remember that one scene, And then
remember when you're playing pool in Top Gun?
And then imagine he starts singing. Oh, God. And then, Sir David Attenborough has become the oldest winner of an Emmy at 99. He's older than the record holder for every other major film award show, including the Oscars, Tonys, and BAFTAs.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. 99, it's going to be hard to beat that, right? Maybe Dick Van Dyke will get something. Maybe Clint Eastwood maybe could make it to 99. Maybe could get something. But that's an accomplishment, man.
Yeah, and Disney won the trial with this loser, Rockmond Dunbar, who claimed, oh, well, I'm not getting vaccinated because of religious exemption. Yeah, bullshit. How does it feel to be a loser? Jesus Christ, what a loser. This was, yeah, I wish I lived in LA. I could have gone to this Emma Stone Begonia screening. Where to go in, you have to shave your head or have them shave your head when you get there.
I could have shaved my head. I really would have done it just for Begonia.
Just to see it.
I like that that guy said he had religious objections to getting the COVID vaccine, but yet he was on like 46 medications or something like that.
Some data came out that said about profits for the Disney era Star Wars movie. The Force Awakens, $500.2 million profit. Last Jedi, $324 million. Rogue One, $258. The Rise of Skywalker, $48. Oh boy.
Ouch.
Wait. What? Solo had a higher profit than Rise of Skywalker?
I imagine the budget was a big reason for that.
That's right. a little bit surprised that Rogue One was beneath The Last Jedi, but I guess that makes sense.
It was following up one of the biggest cliffhangers of the century. People had to see what happened.
That's true. Maybe the biggest, honestly. Jeremy Strong was asked on this red carpet. I think it was the event for the Academy. He was asked about playing Mark Zuckerberg, and comment that was interesting was he was asked, "Have you reached out to Mark?" And he had a long pause, and he just goes, no comment. And that means he has, right?
I think he probably has.
Yeah.
I don't think Jesse Eisenberg had much interaction with Mark Zuckerberg, but Facebook is in such a different spot. I really can't wait to see what that performance is. He says he wants to lead with empathy. He wants to lead with understanding. So I understand reaching out to Mark Zuckerberg and trying to get into his headspace, trying to understand what he was doing, why he was doing it. Somebody who we all have a parasocial relationship with. We all project a lot of our own feelings onto Mark Zuckerberg. So I think it makes sense to reach out and try and get into that character's head, especially Jeremy Strong, who is such an intense actor, and it seems to take the craft just really, really, really seriously. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
And when you think about him, when he was first cast, I was like, I don't know if I'd see it. It doesn't really look like him. He's kind of got a similar facial structure, and I can really see him pulling this off. I think this might be a really great performance.
I can't wait.
This was some interesting news that if this had been like the slowest news week ever, we could have made our story, which Melissa Barrera is going to co-star with John Travolta in a thriller called Black Tides. And this is interesting to me because it was recently announced he was going to be in a horror movie about AI, and I question, could we see John Travolta now be in like real movies, but he's a horror actor? And I don't know, maybe that is something that's going to happen. What do you make of this news?
I'm curious about it. We talked about the fanatic and the craziness of John Travolta's career. I think he's due for a comeback. People like John Travolta. People love a comeback movie. I don't know if this is going to be his big comeback, but sometimes horror can be that, I guess. Sometimes horror can be that vehicle that brings somebody back to the mainstream. I think of something like Toni Collette. He's not going to give a performance to the level of Hereditary or anything like that, but it pulls people who are not necessarily at the height of their career and gives them just something really fun and really showy to chew on. Horror can be such a showy genre, and I would love to see John Travolta chew some scenery.
It's kind of interesting because they're both musical actors. He was in Grease, and she was in The Heights. So it's interesting they're both going to be in a horror movie together.
Make it a horror musical. I'm
sorry to make this sad, but the director, Rennie Harlan, he's the guy who directed The Strangers Chapter 1 and The Strangers Chapter 2.
I'm officially not interested.
So
I've totally changed my opinion.
Yeah, he did The Legends of Hercules. He did Exorcist, the beginning. So, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but not great. But I hope it's good. The In Clause, the new film from Lord and Miller, landed at Netflix. So you'll be watching this at home on your TV.
They work with Netflix a lot.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. This is, I guess, it's good news because at least he's getting something to do while he's unfortunately his health is going down. Eric Dane is going to play an ALS patient on NBC's Brilliant Minds. I don't watch that show, but I'll definitely be tuning in this episode because his performance in season 1 and season 2 of Euphoria is one of the most impressive sort of breakout. I know he's not young, but this is his breakout. He's finally getting noticed. He was on Grey's Anatomy forever. So I'll watch this, and I really hope that his health is declining. We're probably going to unfortunately lose him together. Hopefully his performance in Euphoria season 3 is really memorable, and we remember that performance for a long time.
Yeah, good for him. I'm glad he got the work because when you get a disease as debilitating is that it can obviously kill your career instantaneously. So the fact that he's getting even a few roles at this point is really good to see. And yeah, I'll definitely be watching that episode.
And this is the last thing I have. So this will be the end. A more uplifting note is Hamnet and Rental Family tied for the Middleburg Film Festival Audience Award. I'm not really surprised, especially with Rental Family, because that seems like a movie that'll be like a big crowd pleaser. So
I'm a little surprised about Rental Family because it seemed like it was falling off a little bit in the last few weeks, dropping off of those Oscar rankings. Didn't seem to be getting a lot of awards buzz at other festivals, but it's still the crowd pleaser. I think you still got to look out for the coda of 2025
yeah, I can
coming
see
here
that happening.
and just make people feel really good when they need it, right? The world is very fucked right now. People feel
Yeah.
like shit all the time. Maybe
That's
it's
true.
going to take a really good, heartfelt movie to make everybody feel like it's the movie we got to watch right now. One Ball After Another is not exactly an uplifter. Sinners is not
No.
exactly an uplifter. They're not all-time downers or anything like that, but they're very focused on what's wrong right now in the world. And Rental Family is not, so I could see that sneaking in for sure.
I don't know if you just want one more. Tim Heidecker and Tatiana Maslany are going to do a late night themed dark comedy show called The Comedy Hour. I'm glad to see Tim Heidecker get something.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, I really like him. But yeah,
EDM also mentions that Hamnet constantly getting audience awards like every festival should make you nervous about having one battle after another at number one. I have it at number one right now, one battle, but Hamnet is certainly on its tails, right? And I think the fact that it's maybe a more traditional award fair movie, there could be a reality where Hamnet ends up getting picture and then maybe one battle gets director. But who knows? Hamnet, I think, is absolutely your number two sleeper right now underneath one battle for Best Picture.
You know, Acres, I can kind of see that. Brendan Fraser as Rodney Dangerfield.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, but I think that'll be it for today. I think that's good.
Yeah, it was a great show. I had a great time talking all this, reviewing Shelby Oaks. We got to have Mike on to talk about Is This Thing On? Covered that great Kylo Ren story. I had a really good time on this episode. I can't wait to come back next week and talk about some more. Like I mentioned, me and Michael are going to be doing an awards roundtable sooner than later, going through all these changing Oscar contenders, Hamnet, Rental Family, One Battle After Another, Sinners, all those movies you've been talking about. Even Is This Thing On? We're going to give you an update on how we're feeling about the Oscar chances here and there. Sooner than later, we're going to be back in Derry also, covering the It Show week to week, I hope, covering Derry. So check out Here's the Thing for all our movie and TV reviews. Like I said, we've got film festival coverage across the country over the next couple of weeks. So check us out for lots and lots of movie reviews here. And until next week on this news show, take care of yourselves, everybody. Stay safe out there for the next week. And we'll be back next week with even more news. See ya.